So without further ado, I'd love to introduce to you Roger Brown and Panos Panay. Panos serves as president of the Recording Academy. In his role, Panos drives business growth across the entire organization to further expand service offerings for the Academy members and the industry, focusing on identifying new partnerships, global expansion, and leveraging new technologies. Prior to joining the Recording Academy, Panos served as the Senior Vice President for Global Strategy and Innovation at Berklee College of Music and as a fellow at MIT Connection Science. At Berklee, he led the development and execution of the college's overarching strategic plan, founded the Institute for Creative Entrepreneurship, oversaw its campuses in New York, Valencia, Spain, and Abu Dhabi, as well as the Music and Health and India Exchange Institutes, and steered new partnerships, program development, and the incorporation of new technologies. Panos has been recognized in Fast Company's Fast 50, Inc. Magazine's Inc. 500, Mass High Tech All-Stars, and Boston Globe's Game Changers. Roger Brown, who will be interviewing Panos today, is the chair and founder of Lick Incubator, the next phase in a career that has had many chapters. He is an avocational drummer and songwriter, and the Lick Incubator emerged from his observation during his Berklee tenure that while most very successful musicians are talented, most talented musicians are not as successful as they might be. The Incubator is an effort to help launch the careers of talented musicians and improve their likelihood of building a sustainable career. During his 20s, Roger spent several years living and working abroad, first as a teacher in rural Western Kenya, then in refugee programs in Thailand, Cambodia, and Sudan. He also founded Bright Horizons Family Solutions and becoming the leading provider of workplace childcare in the US and beyond. And in 2004, Roger assumed the presidency of Berklee College of Music, where he served for 17 years. Under his leadership and in coordination with Panos, Berklee opened campuses in Valencia, Spain, Abu Dhabi, and New York City, created the world's largest online music school, merged with Boston Conservatory, and built the award-winning 160 Massachusetts Ave building and its multiple recording studios. Please join me in welcoming Roger and Panos to the stage.
He told me to sit on the left, but I'm always challenged what's left, what's right, since I was a kid, by the way. I don't know.
Welcome, everybody. It's good to be here, good to be back. I've been to 3 of these now, and it's impressive how you all are creating a community of people who love music to enhance what's happening in Charlotte in the Carolinas. I'm so happy to be here with Panos, because he's like my little brother. I feel like I've known him a long time. We've done a lot of things together. We've had a lot of experience together. And he was just honored by the country of Cyprus. He's from Cyprus, which is a small country of about 1 million people in the middle of the Mediterranean, and always talks about the journey from this small place that's really not the center of the music industry to being the president of the Grammys. And so watching him on that journey has been a delight. First Cypriot to come to Berklee, immediately started booking Branford Marsalis, Pat Metheny, Chick Corea, Nina Simone, started his own company, Sonic Bids, which was very successful. He sold it. I recruited him to come to Berklee. He did global strategy for us. And then he got hired to run the Grammys along with Harvey Mason Jr. and a great team. So Panos, for people who don't know that much about it, just catch us up on the Recording Academy and the Grammys and what that's all about.
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks, Liz and Roger. As Roger says, we go back quite a bit, and all they had to say is that Roger Brown's going to be there, and I'm like, sign me up. Wherever Roger goes, I go. So yeah, most of you know the Grammy Awards. I would imagine some of you heard of the Recording Academy, but often people are like, well, what's a Recording Academy? And you know, I tell people I would have done my job well when people stop asking me, so what do you guys do for the rest of the year, you know, other than the Grammys? Because there's usually the second question. What do you do? Oh, I do this and this for the Grammys. What do you do for the rest of the year? Like, no, we don't just work 1 week a year, though that would have been a cool gig. So the Recording Academy is a nearly 70-year-old organization. It comprises of 23,000 members. 13,000 of them are the voting members that vote for the Grammys, which we'll talk about in a minute. We have about 6,000 Grammy U members, which are young college-age students that participate in a program that effectively enables them to connect and envision a pathway into the music industry. And then the rest are what we call professional members. But those 13,000 members that are the voting members are a real interesting group because the Academy's membership is entirely creatives. The people who vote for the Grammys are creators. They're not industry people, they're not agents, managers, lawyers. They are songwriters, performers, producers, engineers, arrangers, they're creators. So what's cool about this organization is that, to my knowledge, it's the only organization that exists that is created by creatives. It's ran and governed by creatives, and it's in service of creators. So the Academy's mission is around ensuring that this group of people that I consider to be, in some ways, the honeybees of our social ecosystem, they're super critical to it, that they are protected and they are advocated for, and that they're given both literal and metaphorical stages for them to shine and for them to be able to creatively express themselves and make connections. So community is a big thing of the Recording Academy. Advocacy is another area. Support, we have the largest charity for music in the world called Music Cares. During COVID, we distributed $20+ million to people who were affected by COVID. During the LA fires, we raised over $10 million to give to music people who lost everything. So for us, the other 364 days a year are dedicated to serving this group of people. Lastly, the Grammys are the Grammys because it is the only peer-to-peer voted award that exists in the industry. And I think there's something in a time when so many people are cynical about everything, there's something really cool about the fact that your peers are choosing to vote for your work in whatever category for that year as what they consider to be excellent. It's not about popularity, it's not about record sales, it's not about a People's Choice Award. It is about what we as your peers, whether it's for songwriting, whether it's for performing or engineering, that is what we consider to represent excellence. And it's why I believe that if you do get a Grammy or if you're nominated for a Grammy, it's something that accompanies you all the way to your obituary. And yeah, usually when a famous person passes away, on the first line of their obituary or even in the title of announcing that they passed away, it says, X-time Grammy Award winning, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. You know, one thing I've observed is a lot of people say they don't care about Grammys until they get one. I mean, it's such an important thing. And of course, we know music is not about winning awards and all that, but it is really an important thing, I think, for the industry, and what you all do is vital. When Panos took the job, we had a conversation, and their contract with CBS was almost up. And there was a fear that as broadcast viewership of shows of all kinds, not just the Grammys, declines, what would happen? You know, would it be able to continue? And Panos can't reveal all the details, but I can tell you that they've renegotiated a new contract with Disney that is eye-opening in terms of the value that is unlocked for the organization. Do you want to speak just a second about that, Panos?
Yeah. Well, the Academy is a not-for-profit organization. I don't think everybody realizes that when they watch the Grammy Awards, that behind it is a not-for-profit organization. And what funds its mission, what funds its ability to do all the stuff that I talked about, is a commercial activity, and that is effectively the media rights that a broadcaster pays for to broadcast the Grammy Awards. It's not dissimilar to sports, right? I mean, what funds the Olympic Committee, what funds FIFA that organizes a World Cup is effectively the broadcast rights that they sell. And then, not dissimilar to these organizations, we also make money from sponsorship and ticketing, but primarily a network, and I'll use that term for the sake of this conversation, paying for the right to broadcast is what funds everything. So that's critical. Clearly, the Academy being with CBS, on CBS in America for 50 years, that's been a critical partnership, and coming to the end of that formerly 10-year contract, because it was renewed over that 50-year period, you all are looking at all the changes that are happening in the media landscape. I mean, I have two 11-year-old daughters, and I swear to God, I don't think they have any clue how to turn on a TV and dial a channel. And the notion of them waiting for something to come up at some time versus them calling it on their iPad on demand is just completely foreign. So certainly coming towards the end of this and being for the first time in the history of the organization a free agent, and it was a choice we made, to go out there and test the waters was a big gamble that we took. And you're thinking, gee, in 2025, does anybody care about an award show? In 2025, does even anybody watch television? Because all TV, regardless, has had massive ratings declines. When you hear that 100 million people watched the last episode of MASH, you're like, what? Like, that doesn't exist anymore, right? I mean, so for us, however, we took a very deliberate approach to how we would go about this process. And there were some things that even we were surprised by, that in an era of declining viewership, well, maybe this is not surprising, sports programming, because it's live, still commands a premium, even more so, right? And you may be hearing or reading in the news how ESPN and all these entities are paying billions and billions for broadcast rights for sports because, yes, people don't care about MASH anymore. At least 100 million people don't care about a sitcom. But a lot of people care to tune in for live TV because you don't want to miss out. Well, the second best thing to sports is award shows. Yes, people, even in 2025, care about awards. Why? I don't know. We can talk about that, and that's another session altogether. But the Grammys, outside of sports, is the second most viewed program on all of American television. I mean, that will blow your mind. And also because music is, by and large, a young person's currency. Yes, young people, which is what networks care about, which is a very much coveted demographic, they tune in. We are the most recognized of all the awards among young people, even teenagers. So a lot of the characteristics of the show and the property made it so highly attractive that, yes, there was a bidding war, and it resulted in this transformational contract.
And it's really important to the future, not only of the Grammys, but also the musicians who benefit from the whole ecosystem has benefited. And the thing I think is cool is many of us care about music that's not featured on the broadcast show because the broadcast show has to reach as many people as possible. So it's the most popular music forms. But if you love jazz, if you love neo-soul, if you love Americana, you're not going to hear much of that on the primary show, but now you've got ways to release that content through streaming and other outlets through Disney. So I think it's going to be great for the whole industry to feature more of what the Grammys is all about than just the kind of tip of the spear of the broadcast show.
Yeah, and I think another thing that is probably relevant to you all, you know, the media industry is going through so much transformation, right? And the migration to streaming. And for us, it was critical to partner with an entity that kind of bridged the two. And also, as the world is moving towards more global audiences, then we felt there was no better entity on the planet than maybe one of the most, if not the most recognizable brand globally than Disney, as well as the fact that it owns a network, ABC, but it also has a supercharged streaming service in Disney Plus, to be that partner and in some ways that teacher for us in terms of how to bridge this chasm. And as Roger said, what you all watch as the Grammy Awards is only 10 out of 96 categories that comprise of the Grammy Awards. The other 85, 86 are given at a ceremony earlier. But audiences, as we said, are becoming fragmented. What opportunities exist amongst that? As Roger said, a lot of categories like jazz or bluegrass or classical, Americana, Afrobeats, these all have dedicated audiences that may not aggregate necessarily around a television set to watch a 3.5-hour TV show on a Sunday night at 8 Eastern. But, well, you can reach them where they are in other ways, and that's what the Disney partnership presents for us.
So let's do 2 minutes of reflection about the time we worked together. When you look back to what the key things you worked on at Berkeley, what comes to mind?
Oh man, first of all, that was just the best time. And I told my wife, Kimberly, I want to make you blush, but I'm like, man, this is like going to practice with Michael Jordan every day. It's like the coolest thing, because Roger is a humble man, but he's incredible. For me, it was all the work that we did to expand the school or the college globally. And some of it was successful, like establishing our campus in Abu Dhabi, growing Valencia, establishing the new campus in New York City, and reimagining what a studio would look like or what it could be, because Berkeley took over the Power Station studio, which is an iconic studio in Hell's Kitchen in New York. But also work that did not end up succeeding, like our work in China, which the pandemic disrupted. But at least for me, it showed me, it was such a great platform to learn about all these creative scenes that exist, and that the needs of a musician in China or in Saudi Arabia or in New York City or in Charlotte for that matter, as different as these places may be, creatives are creatives. And I think we tend to apply a single brush sometimes among all kinds of populations around the world and say, well, you know, like these people are not like us, they don't think like us. And I will tell you, humans are humans, and the need to express themselves creatively and the need to connect with audiences and the need to tell stories and emote through music, I don't care what language you speak or how you dress or what you eat, we're all the same. And that was just a humbling experience for me.
Yeah. I think if we went back to the 80s and someone said there's going to be this phenomenon that we call K-pop, and there'll be kids all over the world singing lyrics in South Korean language to this, you know, this interesting music, this kind of a fusion of pop and a little bit of hip hop and a little bit of its own thing, I think we'd have thought they're losing their minds. So if you were to, you know, you have a better view of what's going on in the world of music than most of us. What do you see coming? Like, where is the action going to be for the next 10, 20, 30 years?
Well, you know, it's interesting that you mentioned K-pop, because in some ways past this prologue, and for those of you who are looking to innovate, I think that often we tend to have recency bias, and we forget that things are a bit cyclical, because I'd say K-pop, and maybe this would be anathema to people, I just don't think it's all that different than what Motown did, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, right? I mean, whatever your opinion may be of the music, it's still, if you abstract it from just the pure visual of it, but there's something I think that you can connect to Berry Gordy's Motown with modern K-pop and what entities like Hype does. And when you actually go there, I can easily see, I forget what the house was that in Detroit that Motown was housed in. Was it Hitsville, USA, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the Hitsville, USA, and the Hype headquarters are really not that different. It's just a different country and a different era.
So where else might it be happening? Obviously, Lagos,
Yeah,
or Mumbai, or
people talk about the global South. I don't know if you all heard this expression, but all you got to look at is where is the movement happening in the world, and well. As you see other cultures want to assert themselves on a global stage, whether it's, you talked about Lagos, whether it's Africa, which is, 1.3 billion people continent, that is projected by, 2050, I believe over a third of the population of the world will be African. I don't think you need an economics degree to figure out, well, of course there will be an assertion on a cultural level by the continent, and it will become more and more dominant. You already see this, right? You also see the African diaspora, historically, it's had a massive influence culturally, but there's a new African diaspora that is also impacting the way that music is being fused and created, and that's exciting. I spent a lot of time in the Middle East, and Arabic I think is the 4th or 5th most spoken language on the planet. There's 400, almost 500 million people from Morocco all the way to the Gulf that speak Arabic, all the way into big parts of Africa that people don't think about. Like, people don't think of the northern part of Africa as Arabic speaking, but yes, it is, And what happens when more and more of that market is, could it be coordinated in the way that the United States of 350 million people as a market is the world's biggest consumer market? Okay, will you see Africa or the Arabic world becoming not just places for exporting, but also places where are importing talent, right? I mean, might there be, in my prior life, I was a talent agent, and I was responsible for booking a lot of these artists across Europe. Might there be an African touring circuit at some point in the next 10, 15 years, right? And part of the work that we're doing is working with governments in Africa to say, well, these are things that you can help to make it easier for artists. It's actually more expensive today for a South African artist to tour and go somewhere in Africa than it is for them to actually fly all the way to America, because of everything from, not enough infrastructure when it comes to flights. Visas are extremely difficult among countries in Africa. So when I look at the world, that's what excites me, that I do think the next 10, 15, 20 years, there will be a lot more music that comes out of non-English speaking parts of the world. And maybe as a non-native English speaker, I think that's important. I think that's good. I just don't think that one culture should have a dominance on what we consume. It will make us more open as people. It will make us more able to emote and connect with people. Because I go back to what I said 5 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago. People are people are people. I just don't care what passport you carry or what language you speak.